Okay, so we'll start the program. Yeah. So welcome all. Hello everyone. Welcome to Diversity and Inclusion Workshop 2020. This is our first workshop of the series of workshops which we are doing sector-wise to increase better employment opportunities for persons with disabilities. As we all know, these are unprecedented times, and the world has never dealt with this crisis of this magnitude and scale in living memory. With more than 110 million people unemployed due to lockdown, the struggle to survive is becoming increasingly difficult, especially for those who are marginalized, and among them PWD tend to impact more in this altered reality. To address this challenge, Dr. Reddy's Foundation, in association with Skill Council for Persons with Disabilities, conducting series of workshops, as it is important for all of us to focus on the inclusion of the PWD community and find innovative ways to integrate them into mainstream employment. So we shall be discussing today on the following topics, and I have my colleague Mr. Ashok, technical specialist in Dr. Reddy's Foundation, who will be talking about general etiquettes and terminologies, need for hiring PWD and reasonable accommodations and technology features, role of employees and employers during this current new normal. And we have Dr. Niharika Nigam, Head Standards and Quality Assurance, Skill Council for Persons with Disability. We'll be talking about role of SCPwD and role and initiatives of SCPwD in the current situation, need to hire PWD and what kind of government benefits our companies will get while hiring PWD. And we also have Mr. Tarun Parihar, Manager Corporate Matters and Projects from Skill Council for Persons with Disability. He will be talking on National Apprenticeship Promotion Scheme. We do have employers who will be sharing best practices and steps taken to retain PWD employees during COVID times and kind of innovative practices they've adopted while hiring PWD during these COVID times, challenges faced and kind of support they got from different stakeholders. So we do have employees to share their best practices, and in the end we have question and answer session. I request all participants to type their questions in the chat box so that we can take all the questions at the end. Before handing over to Mr. Ashok, I would like to talk about, very briefly talk about Dr. Reddy's Foundation and specifically the program, what we do with persons with disabilities. Yeah. So Dr. Reddy's Foundation vision is to enable sustainable social impact at scale, and mission is to empower communities through improved education, health, livelihood, and climate action outcomes. Our strategy is to develop and test innovative solutions to address adaptive social problems and support scaling up of impact by leveraging the power of partnerships. So, Dr. Reddy's Foundation, through its different programs for children, youth, and farmers, rural households, we could impact 7,65,453 people as on date, and working in 18 states. Coming to PWD program, we have initiated this program in 2010, and we are operating in 29 locations and impacted more than 16,000 youth as on date. And through this program, Through this program, we train people with different disabilities, physical disabilities, speech and hearing impaired, and we also cater to people with vision impairment through different centers, training centers we have, and we enroll candidates through different assessment process, and we do conduct formative assessments throughout the program, and we do assess their skill shift during the program and after the program. And this is a 55 days interactive program. We have two models. One is classroom led model, one is digital model. And we do match make candidates with right jobs. We do collect information from different employers and try to identify right jobs for our candidates. And after placements, again, we place them in different sectors because we train our candidates in core employability skills so that they can be placed in different sectors at entry level jobs. And we do provide accessible, we do have accessible training centers across all locations, and we provide hostel facility to rural youth. And this is the impact we make through our program. 65% placement rate and 10,000 rupee average monthly income. There are placements happened even with 20,000 salary. This is 10,000 is an average monthly salary the candidates get. And as I mentioned in the previous slide, we do measure their skill shift after the program. This is 70% is something benchmark we have kept ourselves. And there are 500 plus employers who are on board to recruit persons with disability from TRF. And these are few employers who are supporting us in recruiting persons with disability and different sectors mentioned on the right side. So yeah, this is about PWD program, what we are doing. And I'm now handing over to Mr. Ashok for the to take this discussion forward.
Hello and good evening, all one and all. So, warm welcome from my end to this first virtual workshop that we are aiming that will be a good platform to raise issues pertaining to people with disability, and we will also be uh, understanding about their challenges, and also we will also try to think about solutions to ensure more number of employment opportunities to people with disability. So I will be taking you through the my presentation, which will be displayed. Is the slides?
Yes.
Okay. So this presentation has two parts in it. So I'll be handling for the next 15-20 minutes max. And this presentation, as I said, will have two narratives. We want to understand disability first, because when we want to think about their employment, we need to know them, we need to understand them as people, what they are and how we have to, what is the right way of approaching them, what is the right way of understanding them. So that we need to understand first. So that is my first part. And the second part, I'll be handling the present situation. What is the present situation? What is the challenge? What are the challenges they are facing? And then what are the government support for that, or how we can enable work for people with disability at this point of time using various accommodations. So that is my second part. So when we started this workshop, also it was clearly said that India is facing an unprecedented time at this point. But it is also said that this is our once in a lifetime opportunity for India. Being we have this advantage in population demographic dividend, but at the same time, the irony is India and the whole world is going through its once in a lifetime opportunity, or I don't know how many life we have to see, or touch wood, it should not happen again. So this is a crisis that the whole world is facing, and India is no exception to that. And it is a very positive sign in itself that we are starting to think about including persons with disability. And why we need to think about them? Because stats says that all around the world we have different culture, caste, community, language, but disability is considered as world's largest minority. Wherever you go, you find disabled people, any community, any language, any geographical region. So you have people with disabilities, and it is so very apt and appropriate that we think about people with disability. So I will be first talking about that angle first. So if you look at, if you want to understand disability, we need to understand the right terminologies that we need to use first, because terminologies plays a very important role in all the people's, everyone's life. So people with disability also has that dignity. We need to provide them that dignity. So we need to understand the terminologies which we have in slide 3. So the terminologies are very important also in saying that we recognize them as people first, because when we see a person with disability or whatever disability he is, we tend to have some soft corner in our mind or some thoughts in our mind that he's a blind person, he's a deaf person, he's a handicapped person. So this kind of thought emerges in our mind. But the terminology says, the right terminology says that we need to treat them as people first. So when we start giving that dignity to that people, recognize them as people, accept their disability, it's only then we can start working, start to think about work, involving them in other mainstream activities. That is why terminologies are very important for us. And if you can see the terminology slide, is the term, yeah. So the terminology is, it's just the appropriate ones and the inappropriate ones which are there. So the inappropriate ones, we need to basically we need to avoid those inappropriate ones, but it's not as difficult as we think, because if you look at the table or the slide very carefully, the appropriate terminologies has only one small difference. We suffix people first. We only say, instead of blind person, we say person with vision impairment. Instead of deaf person, we say people with speech and hearing impairment. Instead of handicapped or orthopedically handicapped person, we say people with physical disability. So just by suffixing people, we are giving that recognition, we are giving that equal dignity to them. That gives them confidence, that gives them recognition. And when we start approaching them in this way, they start thinking about, they don't start to think about their challenges, but they start to think about opportunities. They start to think about equality. So that is a thought process we need to inculcate with them when we start thinking about bringing them into the mainstream. That is why we need to understand about terminology. The two major problems with terminologies that we normally do is, either we use terminologies in a discriminatory way, or we use terminologies in a very kind of glorifying way. What do you mean by discriminatory way? Just by calling them handicapped, blind, crippled. So all these are discriminatory ways. Well, what are glorifying ways? I can quote some examples like specially able, specially challenged, right? Even even we can say the like we are treating them as superhumans. We are glorifying, we are patronizing them. So both are not appreciated, or both are not encouraged when it comes to people with disability. Both puts them in the wrong frame of mind. That is why we need to avoid those terminologies. And why this is important for in this workshop is that, as employers, we need to understand this so that we can spread this information amongst our group, amongst our peers in the workplace, amongst the management. So everything, then starts working. Apart from the terminologies, we also need to understand in the the etiquettes part, which is there in the next slide. So majorly, the etiquettes is the one of the other major aspect, because terminologies are just terminologies, but when it comes to etiquettes, it helps us how we can communicate with them, and how we can move along with them when we try to be with them in work, or when we try to be there with them as a friend, when we try to be with them as parent, as family members, friends, employers. Etiquettes are very important, which has certain basic elements that we need to follow. These are very simple pointers which I've given in the slide. But but the thing is, we need to follow only one major ground rule for this. We need to focus on their strength. We need to focus on their ability and ignore their lack of ability, or ignore their weaknesses. This is what we have to do while following the etiquettes. So when it comes to speech and hearing, majorly their strength is vision, and their weakness or in a lack of ability is following the audio. So we have to avoid that and give everything in visual. So whenever we are communicating, so some pointers are listed there. We have to be clear in communicating. We should not have distorted communication, and we should not have any kind of any kind of things which it distorts their communication or obstructs their vision. And when it comes to visually impaired, it's actually reverse. We have to be verbal in everything. Non-verbals are not the strengths of visually impaired. Verbal and oral, and also with the written and the wherever there is audio, or the descriptive audio descriptions, or audio is the major strength of visually impaired, because they rely basically on the sense of hearing, sense of touch, sense of the other senses other than vision, right? And when it comes to physical disability, it's mainly the wheelchair users wherein major etiquettes are needed, where we need to respect this wheelchair as their device. It is not a chair, it is their mobility device, and we need to speak to them. We need to go down to their level and speak, and we have to respect their privacy as wheelchair. So these are certain basic etiquettes that we need to follow in understanding disability, right? So with this, my first part of the presentation is more or less done. This will give us a basic understanding on disability and how to approach a person with a disability. This is the first step that we need to know when we want to start including people with a disability. The second thing, what I will be doing today in my presentation today, is to understand today's challenge. And in today's context, what is that we need to do as employer? What are the challenges encountered by people with disability, and how people with the disability should be mainstreamed into employment and mainstreamed into social inclusion activities. This is what I wanted to do in the next next 5-10 minutes. So when we think about people with disability, it is whenever there is a disaster. This is not the first time. So people with disabilities issues are very easily not it does not get the attention as it should be, whether it is in the media, or whether it is at the policy level, or whether it is at any program level. It's not because nobody wants to do. It's because the regular pattern, or the regular societal growth that has taken place, or the evolution that we have, the mindset doesn't work that way. So it's very easily, because wherever we find, in all the communities we find disabled people, children, women, any backward communities. But unfortunately, when things policies and programs are framed, disability specific provisions gets missed out. And this happens in terms of disasters as well, and during disasters as well. During the relief phase, it's very sad that this gets missed out each and every time. And the same thing we are facing now. Of course, the difference is we do have a lot of awareness now, and I will be taking you through those things in the next 2-3 slides. So we will learn about majorly the government initiative, the challenges that they faced, the role of employers, and so on and so forth. So it's slided. When we look at, we will first, before that, we'll just try to understand what is the current situation, because one of the slides, which is slide 6, says about statistics. Excuse me. Yeah, so the statistics says about general employment, unemployment rate 27%, and then it says 80% of jobs in rural area, and 50% of jobs, 80% in urban and 50% in rural, it is affected. But the strange fact here is we do not have any statistics related to disability, who have lost their jobs, who have lost their belongings, or even people with disabilities. How many people with disabilities who became, who are affected due to COVID-19? We do not have such statistics. And that is the state, sad state. Whenever there are such disasters or any important happening, we do not have statistics of people with disability. This is a major problem where the policies and programs gets missed for people with disability, right? That's a major hitch I see. And it is that's why it is very important now for me, for us and everyone to know what are the major things that we need to consider or focus when we want to include people with a disability in mainstream employment or any other activity. So we have a video to see. We have a video for that. I would we would like to, we would look at the video now, which says about 5 basic formulas that we need to have, that we need to put into practice while including people with disability. Can we have the video? Okay, so this is just a basic video to understand how people with a disability should be included in mainstream activities. So 3 words for me are important in that: mainly access or accessibility. The other one is awareness, and majorly inclusion. So if we have these 3 words in our minds, it is much better. And the relevance of these 3 words and in the context of people with disability, it is easier to include people with disability in mainstream society, in all the activities, and of course employment as well. So first, in order to understand this, we'll look at the challenges which are faced by people with disability in mainstream employment, right? So basically, during these challenges are, I've listed these challenges mainly in the context of COVID-19, the lockdown, and the present scenario, right? So if you look at the challenges, so majorly the first point is the access point, accessibility issue, right? So we have a lot of things happening today. So the news should be accessible, the communication should be accessible, which if it is not there, it is very difficult to communicate the message to people with disability. Whether if it is too much audio, people with vision, speech and hearing will be affected. If it is only in video, people with speech and hearing will be affected. So it is very important to balance this. And I'll be telling you in the next slides why it is important for employers as well. The next point, the next major point of concern for people with disability during this time is the travel. Public transport is, is very difficult these days. In most of the places, still the buses are not running. Trains and air travel is also very limited. So, and even the basic public transport is a major concern for people with, because people with disability majorly rely on public transport. So if we have problem in public transport, then there is an issue with people with disability. And this affects, this will affect their mainstream activities as well. The the other aspect of challenge for people with disability is the family. So we see that the attitude of family, sometimes may not be supportive towards people with disability, and during this time, it is even worsened because of majorly the social distancing aspect. Because the concern has increased. People with disability, if they go out, will they follow the social distancing? Will they be able to be independent? Will they manage independently? How will they manage? So all these concerns, because earlier the concerns were there, which has now doubled because of this present scenario. And in terms of the employment, majorly, this is the major challenge in terms of employment. In India, formal workforce is very limited and very less to people with disability, and major employment source for people with disability is the non-formal sector and the self-employment. So if that is the case, the present scenario has a major severe hit on the self-employment as well as the unorganized sector. So people with disabilities employment has taken a major hit. And the last point under this is the social support factor. So for instance, people with disabilities need caregiver support or any physical assistance support whenever they need. So that is a major question mark due to this COVID, because caregiver support, social distancing is a concern, and physical assistance, they may have some apprehension. Everybody now, the trust factor is a question mark. So that way, people with disabilities are in a disadvantaged position in relation to accessing the social support or the social support from the non-disabled people in the social system. So being this, the situation being like this, how do we now improve, or what do we do to improve this situation? So the first thing is that the government, we have to see what government does, and government, very fortunately, they have framed a lot of guidelines for this, and the most important is the government guidelines launched by the persons, the Department of Persons Empowerment of People with Disability. The March itself, they have framed the guidelines, and they have released the guidelines as well to all the states, union territories, and all the private stakeholders as well. So it for come under the domain of this guidelines. So majorly we see that they talk about the policy. So the information should be accessible. It should be there in all the local languages and also in accessible language. So that is what is the main thrust of this guidelines. It also says about the protection aspect, because physical assistance and caregiver support is needed. So protection for those caregivers and whoever is giving physical assistance is very important, because when they get that assistance, the trust factor will increase. They will not hesitate in helping them. So that, in that, because we do have sign language interpreters, we have caregivers for people with severe disabilities, we have caregivers assisting the intellectual disability people, we have caregivers assisting wherever people with disability require support. So for them, some protective aids is definitely necessary. That is what the guideline says. And it also speaks about the awareness aspect. The whatever campaign we do, we have so many ads these days about spreading the information and the do's and don'ts about COVID-19. But for people with disability and inclusion, they should be similar. Inclusion of them also in the ads will help in raising the larger awareness among people, the general people, right? And it also speaks about availability, because people with disability, especially this was felt during the lockdown aspect. People with disability, they were not able to go to the shops. Even if they go, they were not able to take the things, or purchase certain things, because of the social distancing factor, as well as the lack of physical assistance. So employers today, especially, we are inviting the retail industry. So you can be innovative by dedicating certain time to people with disability, where they can come shop, and we can provide the accessible features in those times. Of course, this is not an inclusive activity, but it's a good way to begin. And then as time goes, we can train the society. It's not easy to train the society in one day, right? And the last point in this speaks about the responsibility, because there should be a responsible person to oversee all this. So the state commissioners and the district commissioners are responsible for all the disability related issues and concerns faced by people with disability. Now, after this, we need to also know we need to know, as employers, what is our responsibility, and that will that's one of the major thing for objective of this workshop. So for one of the first thing that we need to know is, whatever we are talking today, we talk about technology, we talk about how we can employ people with disability, we talk about challenges. So everything needs to come in as a guidelines, because when we don't have a written document, we will not act. So it is always proposed, it is always ideal and advised to have a guidelines which talks about disabled friendly features that will be there in a employment setting. It also it also speaks about the other thing that employers can do at this time is, wherever possible, room for transportation should be provided. This is of course, it depends on each and every employer's various factors, internal external factors. But still, since public transport, till the time public transport is not taking the is not resuming, it's a major challenge for people with disability to travel. So transportation is one of the things that employers can consider providing, if it is done on, like, if the person has to come and work in a workplace setup. And then it also speaks about protection, where there are certain the COVID essential materials which should be given to people with disabilities, the sanitizers, the masks. And we can also encourage the more as much as possible, we should encourage people with disability also to carry their own things, because we don't know what if we provide our any general things, it will be risky for them. So it's always advisable to carry their own bottles or sanitizers or anything of that sort, so to be safe from their end as well, right? And one of the major things that we can do, and which is really thrown an advantage in this circumstance, is the flexi work policies. So that is one of the things that major employers can do in this sector as well. And wherever possible, we can give them work at home policy, work at home options. So if you want to be in retail, even retail and hospitality industry as well, things which can be managed from work at home option, it should be given. And the advantage I will tell you of this is, we can till now we were having apprehensions to hire people with severe disabilities as well, people with wheelchairs and all that. So when they are working in the comfort of their home, we can also involve this group, which will again give us more labor force. So that is an advantage for employers. And this is what we have been demanding. People with disability fraternity have been demanding to provide work at home, but somehow this has not materialized. And this we have to make use of this as an opportunity to provide more work at home options, and involve more disabled people who are not being able to travel and come to the workplace. So that becomes a advantage for people, employers as well as people with disability at this point of time. And if you do this again, hiring and sensitization, it is very important. Sensitizing your team about including disability at this, crucial, crisis situation, and not to avoid them in any circumstances. Find out ways and means how we can include them. Sensitize the entire, management also in this, and also, sensitizing disabled people themselves, like how cautious they have to be, providing them the various accessible materials and equipments. And by doing this we will also, because this is a very adverse situation. It's not a normal situation. It's an adverse and a very crisis, kind of a crisis situation. And of course, if we do this, we will be role model employers. And we have such employers today. We will be sharing, who will be sharing their experience in the aftermath of this COVID situation. I've also given you certain links where you can rely upon wherever you are, whenever you want to frame some guidelines. There are two links given here, which you can refer to as a base for drafting your own guidelines, which will be specific to your needs. My final submission today is about the reasonable accommodation, because when you want to be flexible, you also have to provide some reasonable accommodation to people with a disability when when they are hired. So reasonable accommodation does not only mean physical ramps and all that. It also means any modification or accommodation which helps him or her to perform their work productively and efficiently. Any small level changes, as I told in the previous, slide, work at home option, this is a reasonable accommodation. We can give them flexi work hours, so it's not a fixed time, but it's a flexi work hours, but the productivity is not compromised in that. And we can also give, think in terms of some technological support. If they are working from home, if we are involving severe people with disability, wheelchair users, can we give some technology assistance? There are different kinds of kinds of aids we can follow in computers. We can allow, we can provide various types of keyboards or various types of mouse, which can allow people even with people who don't have upper and lower limbs to perform in a computer. So those kind of features will not only include them in employment, but which will also give us more labor force, and it will also increase our productivity. So the business sense will be explained by the, my colleagues from SCPwD. So I will leave it to them to explain that. But it's a win-win situation that we are talking about. It's not only that we are trying to help them, but it's a win-win situation for us, that they are giving us labor and the productivity, and in this time we are also including them, and that is our responsibility to the society. So this is the message that we should carry. It's a win-win situation for all. We are giving them opportunity, they are giving them productivity. That's the message everyone should, I would like everyone to carry today, after this workshop. If we work, because the fact that you all are here today, that itself shows that how proactive you are in starting to think about people with disability. Not many people will do this. Now, since you have taken this step, I urge and appeal to all of you to take this message, that it is all equal when we think people with disability as people first, and give them the equal opportunity, and they will give us productivity, and you will also gain that productivity by if we provide equal opportunity to this group of people, right? So with that, I would like to end my submission. And towards the end, if we have time, we would take any questions if you have from your end. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ashok. We do provide, these are the business benefits, and we do provide some services to all the employers. We help employers to find right jobs for the students, for the youth with disability, and we do provide support of placement support, post placement support for 3 months to retain our candidates at workplace. And we do conduct audits and sensitization workshops to employers for specific companies. And yeah, so this is something we do as part of our responsibility. And employees can reach out to us for any kind of support if you need. Yeah, thank you. And we now we have Dr. Niharika Nikam from Skill Council for Persons with Disability.
Very good evening to all of you. And thank you, Lakshmi. Thank you, Ashok, for a wonderful introduction, giving an overview of this about this workshop and the current crisis and what our role should be. So, as a representative from the Skill Council for Persons with Disability, I welcome all of you for this virtual workshop, the first of its series. And the main sectors which we have taken for today have been retail, hospitality, and e-commerce. Because as we've been discussing that a lot has been impacted, but I think retail is one of the sector which has bounced back. Hospitality, we are trying to understand what will be the best way in which some of the areas can be further dealt in to find what can be the probable outcomes about this. So if we can play this, Lakshmi, we can go on to the slideshow. So I'm sure all of you are already employees of PWD. Some of you may be aspiring employers. Some of you already have persons with disability, and you'll have a number of queries in your mind about the safety of the PWD. I mean, sustaining the job for the PWD during this crisis situation, and what should be the best way in which we should be doing it. So a lot has been already given to you by Mr. Ashok in his presentation. And I would like to very briefly touch upon the skilling ecosystem about Skill Council for Persons with Disability and all. So the major objective of the virtual session, which me and my colleague will be doing, is a very brief overview to the skill ecosystem. The highlight will be to on the need to hire the person with disability, the legal as well as the social perspective to it, your role as an employer. However, my Ashok has already told very explicitly about the role of the employers in the current times. So we'll see if we can skip this. The government benefits, some of the benefits, though I'm sure if you are already the employees for the PWD, you may be aware of that, but just a refreshing knowledge on the government benefits. And the NAP scheme will be taken care by my colleague, Mr. Tarun Parihar. So going forward, if we just have a look at the skilling ecosystem, we know that in this segment, there have been major stakeholders who have been involved in doing skilling for not only the persons with disability, but for the youth. So if we see that we have National Skill Development Corporation, Ministry of Labor and Employment, National Urban Livelihood Missions, National Rural Livelihood Missions, public sector undertakings, central and state ministries, all have been doing skill training for persons with disability. And since there were a lot of major stakeholders involved in this, the processes have been entirely different, though the job or the outcome of the training and the skill of an individual was something different. So the training and the skill, there was a gap. In order to bridge this gap, there was, and based on the national policy on skill development, the Skill Council for Persons with Disability was created. And I mean, a reform has been taken in view of that the major stakeholders should all come together on one platform this was not only to bring convergence, but also to scale up the various initiatives in which they have been involved. So going on to the next slide, here we can see that the Skill Council for Persons with Disability has been actually incepted in October 2015, and it facilitates gainful employment for the PWD. We also provide a synergistic framework of the tools, assistive aids, devices, methodology, which will be suitable for the persons with disability in order to carry out a particular job role or a task. So we develop expository for the same. We also work on the content, curriculum, and we actually, I mean, this webinar is again an example of the same, that we bring in a lot of aspect of the public-private partnership. So we believe that there has to be coordination, there has to be synergies, there has to be working together to bring out the best results. And lastly, but not the least, but we would like to have the PWD have their own life of dignity and self-worth. So going to the next slide, we see that the major activities, like all of us have some roles and we take certain steps towards it. For Skill Council, I mean, we work along the job roles which are already existing in the skill ecosystem, which are more than 2,000 job roles. We adopt the job roles, we map it with the help of the subject matter experts, the PWD, and make the job role ready for training, which finally gets into action, implementation through the training providers who are empaneled, who have the infrastructure, the lab, and the equipment. Then the very important aspect of the whole training is a quality resource, human resource for the training of the PWD. So we do conduct the training of trainers programs on disability sensitization, where we give them the application on the knowledge of disability. So in order to do a particular job role, what is it that they will need most while working for persons with visual impairment, speech and hearing impairment, locomotor disability, or intellectual disability. It is very important to have the course content in accessible form, which Ashok has also highlighted in his presentation. So we also customize the content in Braille and audio for the persons with blindness, and in digital mode for the persons with speech and hearing impairment, which has the frozen captioning option as well as the Indian Sign Language interpreter window available in that, so that a person who's not able to read may see the ISL interpreter and understand what it means. Apart from that, once the training is complete, there is a need of assessment on the training as well as the certification. So assessors again need to be sensitized, else they may not be able to, work, I mean, respond to the request if there is. Suppose I'll just cite an example. If there is a timeline of 2 hours for an examination, persons with disability may need another extension of some minutes or a half an hour or so for them. So therefore, we sensitize the assessors on the requirements or the accommodations which they might have to do, and are justified, rationalized, approved guidelines are there for assessors, and we conduct the training for them. And the ultimate aim of everything becomes the successful employment, where Dr. Reddy's foundation, a lot of such associations come into picture, as well as the employers. All of you play a very significant role in making this successful, because the final goal of employing 25 lakh people by the end of 2022 may not seem possible unless all of us join hands to do certain things together. So if we can have a look at the next slide, please. We want to see why there is a need to hire PWD. There is always a legal perspective and a social perspective to it. Yes, we feel we are all talking about rights, acts, policies which have been framed. So here we will especially talk about both the aspects very briefly, and I'll touch upon some of the salient features with the recent Rights for Persons with Disability Act 2016 has brought into a picture. So if we have a look at it, we see the RPWD Act actually replaces the earlier act which was there of Rights for Persons with Disability Act 1995. And in this act, there were 7 disabilities which have been notified, while in the Disability Act 2016, there are 21 disability. And we can see the magnitude and the increase in the workforce which we can have by with this figure making an increase of almost 3 times to what it was earlier, from 7 to 21. So I mean, the act also protects the disabled persons in India from the various forms of discrimination. I mean, whether that is in the form of employment, leisure, recreation, academics, or anything. So this act actually supports non-discrimination for people with disability. The act, okay, can we just go to the previous one? Yes. And this also by and large applies to not only the government establishments but also to the private establishments also. We'll see that in the coming slides. So as per the Rights of Persons with Disability Act, on the next slide we can see the requirements. The requirement for the sector is, if we can go to the next slide please. Yeah. So as Ashok has also said that, there are certain ways in which you can, cope up or bring some new strategies to the current scenarios. There are certain mandates as per the Rights for Persons with Disability Act, which says that the people have to have the employers who have persons with disability employed, they should have, sure, have an equal opportunities policy on the establishment's website. And a copy of the same should also be shared with the State Commissioner for Persons with Disability. Any establishment which have 20 employees must appoint a liaison officer. I mean, you can have that from your HR team or somebody who can actually facilitate the employment opportunities for persons with disability as well. Establishments are also required to identify job vacancies in your own setups. You are the best judge where all the people with disability can fit into, and you can propose those job roles. You can share it on your websites so that a lot of linking can happen. A PWD can see the accessible website and they themselves know and apply for the job roles from there. So, and in this case, apart from the government agencies, a 5% of requirement has already been also been proposed to the private sector for the employment of PWD. The employer must also ensure the prohibition of illegitimate discrimination, which we have already talked about in the previous slides and presentation. And additional facilities, Ashok has also said that, giving flexibility in time, special leave situation, work from home, flexible, reasonable accommodations should be given and should be applied in the work scenarios as well, in order to promote the barrier-free moving around of people with disability in the organization, so that they can bring in the best of their skills and outcomes on a project. All establishments have to also conform to the accessibility norms. Ashok has already talked about the accessibility norms, so I will not like to dwell more into it. So if we can go to the next slide. Yeah. So what is your role? I mean, what all of us have to do, if we have to abide by what has been recommended, we have to bring in some revamping in the internal policies. The company human resource team is the main who has to come into action to, ensure that policies are designed to benefit the persons with disability. Firms can also increase their profitability by strategically aligning the policies to suit the special needs of the disabled persons, because they come with a business sense. There is a business sense of hiring the PWD. Hiring and retaining disabled persons is an important ethical compliance or as well. I mean, as compared, if it is legal, there is some ethical compliance as well, and we all have to work towards it. So in the next slide, I'm also talking about that what will be your important role here. So we can go to the next slide, please. So we can go to the next slide, Lakshmi.
Tarun, Tarun, Tarun is sharing. Tarun, can you go to next slide?
Tarun, can we go to the next
Yeah,
slide,
yeah,
please?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So the social perspective for hiring persons with disability. Again, there is a CSR, which is a mandate for most. I mean, all the companies. So it can be rational. I mean, you can deploy the financial resources towards mandatory CSR schemes by providing opportunities to the disabled persons. In the last few years, we have also seen that private firms in India operating in this service sector have also been hiring persons with disability to fill various vacancies. Such hiring not only fulfills ethical compliances, but also mandates from the business perspective. And we all are aware about the companies like IBM, Coca-Cola, Google, Amazon, Flipkart, Lemon Tree. And I'm sorry if I've not been able to list, but all of you are already aware that which are the pioneers when we are talking about the CSR and the hiring of PWD. And some of the employers will also be talking to you after these presentations towards the end. So if we go on to the next slide, please. Yeah. So here, as we can see that, it is not only a social responsibility, but there is always a business sense, because as business people, I mean, nothing will be more sustaining unless we find a real sense in doing certain work. So while we hire a person with disability, we should understand that they bring in a very high potential and a diverse range of skills and abilities. Because if something has to be done, with the we normally when we operate on a keyboard, how does it look to us? I mean, if we imagine that we have to type an email, what do we normally think of? We have to just take on the computer and use our fingers on the keyboard and do the same. I mean, do what we require. But for PWD, many of them use just one hand, and they have a one-handed keyboard. Some of them are able to use their foot in order to do the same. So this is just a very basic example of how a lot of diverse abilities are bringing to the setup, so that others may also have the ability to learn and adapt to change and diversity. They form a very large talent pool of skilled manpower, which is just lying, unutilized. If we have them, nothing like it, and the kind of dependability which we have from their work, I mean, can actually go for years, so that the sourcing cost, training cost, attrition being very low, it is reduced. So PWD are dependable, very dependable in terms of quality, safety, and task consistency also. And the outcome also comes back more in numbers. Like I've been hearing from my colleague from Lemon Tree Hotels that if any other non-disabled person does housekeeping and make up the bed for 15 beds in a day, a person with speech and hearing impairment does 21 such assignments in a day. So again, saying that there is a business sense in doing all that. So we can go on to the next slide, please. So now here, I mean, we have already talked about the need, and now we can talk about what is our ultimate destination. Why are we running around? All of, and it does not only stand right for persons with disability, but for all of us. We all acquire skills, we all get educated, we all learn communication skills. It is all for so that we can economically become dependent, and we should have our aspirations met, whatever we thought for our family, for our children, for our siblings, for our brothers and sisters and all. We should be able to do that. And that is possible through the industry, the employers. Unless we are employed and we find that economic sustenance through through the industry, the partners, we will not be able to attain this independence if it comes to wage employment. So in the next slide, we see that what can be the significant role? What can your significant role be? I mean, in your own organizations, we can commit for sharing the enormous responsibility for creating an inclusive workforce. We can identify the job roles, the job opportunities, which are found suitable for persons with disability. I completely agree that many of you may not be able to come up with many job roles, but even if all of us are able to, come up with at least 2 or 3 job roles, or even a single job role, it will make a lot of difference for the entire thing. Creating an inclusive work culture is again very, very important, because in terms of, it has to flow from the top to the bottom. I mean, the culture has to be imbibed in all of us. And that is why we say that each and every employee has to be sensitized towards the need of hiring a person with disability. Creating an enabling work environment again becomes our responsibility in totality, with workplace adjustments, which are very, very basic, non-expensive. I mean, that is only a myth that we have to invest a lot when we have to make the workplace adjustments. So the tangible benefits. I mean, I'm not the best person to tell you and run you through all. I will recommend that you should visit the website of the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. And here is the website link also, www.disabilityaffairs.gov.in, for the rest of the benefits. But yes, I can share with you that there has been, there has been a revision in the initial incentives which have been given. Now there has been an increase of 1% per persons with intellectual disability also. So now it has come from 3 to 4%. As I already said, that there is a 5% reservation has also been proposed for the private sector employers, and 1% for persons with intellectual disability. Apart from this, earlier the EPF and ESI contribution was a very big hassle for the employees, and they said that the processes are very rigid and a lot of paperwork is required. So here, if you have persons with disability employed, you just have to need to furnish the employees' details to the EPFO and ESIC office, and the rest will be taken care by these offices. In case of private employers, PWD as apprentices is also one of major development which has come into force. And I think apprenticeship is an opportunity which gives a lot of ease of transition, easier transition for the people with disability, and the employers also come to know about the candidate during this period. And benefits are also given. My colleague will talk about that. So if we go on to the next slide, please. Yes, the initiatives of SCPwD in the current situation. So I think I'm going to talk all in totality, because we work with training providers. And advocacy workshop has been one such workshop, which is a part of one of these initiatives. And we have been planning all these workshops, virtual workshops, sessions for employers with many other organizations and associations also. In order to give guidelines to the training providers, we have also come up with an e-books. There are government guidelines which are already available, but focused for the training providers who are enrolled with the PMKVY scheme and other such schemes. There are e-books which are available with us. the COVID times has given and created a lot of uncertainty in the mind of people, and there has been a lot of depression cases have been on a rise, and there has been a lot of homebound a lot of nuisances have also come to a notice. So in order to mitigate that, we have also had free counseling sessions organized with the certified counselors, and these were also available in Indian Sign Language. Some of the counselors were also doing it with the help of ISL for the people who were inquiring for certain provisions for persons with speech and hearing impairment. Then in order to create the learning platforms more accessible, we also worked on development of e-content as well as development of learning management system. So we now have this working, and we have a learning management system ready, because unless the training will be robust, the end result, the candidates will not come out in their best, will not be able to exhibit their best potential, and then the hiring may definitely get impacted. So with that in mind, we are trying to make our training more robust with the trainers also, and with the training delivery methods. So we got into partnerships with DFID India, which is the UK, with the help of the UK support, and the National Star College, which is in Scotland. And we worked on developing the skills of the people, trainers for the persons with disability, in order to bring in more quality during the training delivery using the online platforms. Because all of us feel that somewhere we get stuck and we really do not know how to capture details. All of us, when we started doing it, now it has become a trend, but now when we started doing it, we would have definitely felt a lot of limitation on our part when we were using the online platforms. We have initiated partnerships for developing employment and entrepreneurship modules also, because when nothing works, I think the entrepreneurial skills of an individual, takes a higher side as compared to any other in self employment. Online mode for training on disability orientation and sensitization is again available on NSDC. Also, we have shared the occupational standards with NSDC. They are approved, and they will be on the Skill India portal, if some of you are already aware and familiar with the Skill India portal. So now I think Lakshmi will hand over the mic to my colleague Tarun Parihar for touching upon the initiatives of the NAPS. Thank you so much. If there are any queries, we will be happy to share towards the end of this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Niharika. Tarun, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Niharika and Shri Lakshmi ji. So, while talking about NAPS, National Apprenticeship Promotion Scheme, I would like to share that this apprenticeship is not a scheme or a compulsion for establishments and other stakeholders. It's an act which is Apprenticeship Act 1961, and then the rules are there: Apprenticeship Rule 1992, and then Apprenticeship Amendment Rules 2019, according to which if an employer has 0 to 3 employee strength, it's not eligible for them to be engaging in the apprenticeship part. But if you have 4 to 29 employees in your company, it's optional for you. Whereas the employers having 30 or more than 30 employees in the company, it's mandatory for them to engage at least 2.5% to 15% of the staff in the apprenticeship thing. Now, since it's an act, there are many many rules and restrictions for establishments as well as for the apprentices as well. But instead of penalizing the establishments, government has decided to promote this particular scheme, the apprenticeship part, to incentivize the establishments who are already doing this or wanted to do this for the nation building. Now, NAPS is implemented by Director General of Training, DGT, under the aegis of Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, with the aim to train approximately 50 lakh youth as apprentices by 2020, including the service sectors as well. So now you can also go through with the details available on the apprenticeshipindia.org, which is a portal specifically to promote this scheme and to operationalize this particular scheme, which is NAPS. Now, under the apprenticeship training, there are two types of, two modes of training, you can say. One is BT, we can say this, basic training, and the other is on the job training. So if establishment wants that some basic training should be given to the apprentices before they go to the shop floor, there is a provision for basic training. And the duration of the entire apprenticeship training is 6 to 36 months, which is again left to the industry discretion. The stipend provision is also there in the apprenticeship part. I will also share the incentives for the establishments for stipend and other things and basic training as well. Now, these are two incentives for establishments. You can say the benefits to engage the staff members in apprenticeship, to engage the apprentices in the company. One is the basic training cost, which is approximately 7,500 rupees per apprentice for 3 months or 500 hours of the basic training. This will be borne by the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship and would be given to the establishment if they are engaging the apprentices in their company. The second thing is there is the sharing of 25% of the prescribed stipend, which is subjected to the maximum of INR 1,500 per apprentice. So these two benefits, these two incentives are there for establishments going through with this particular scheme, NAPS. More benefits are like they can also, the establishments can also utilize their CSR budget in the apprenticeship program. However, the minimum percentage, which is 2.5% for each establishment having 30 or more employees in the company, they can utilize the CSR budget in that. For example, if you are engaging the 10% apprentices in your company out of your overall manpower, 7.5% can be utilized in the CSR budget, because 2.5% is the minimum mandatory limit for apprenticeship as per the Act. Now, a part of that, it also reduces long-term costs and eases statutory and regulatory requirements for the establishment, which is a benefit for them, and then proactively addresses hiring requirements by training the apprentices as per the industry need. Now, when we talk about NAPS, there are requirements of the curriculum, the curriculum and course for the particular job role. So there are approximately 2,000 plus QPs, qualification packs or job roles available on Apprenticeship India portal. You can go through with it and can find out if any relevant job roles for your existing apprenticeship opportunities are available, or else you can also develop that particular curriculum with the help of Skill Council and Sector Skill Council. So there are two components under this Apprenticeship India portal. One is NAPS and the second is non-NAPS. Under NAPS, the mandatory requirement is to the course should be NSQF aligned and approved, which is a national standard qualification framework. It should be jointly developed with concerned SSC. So there are 38 sector skill councils in the skill ecosystem, including SCPwD. However, we are not a sector specific skill council. We work for the empowerment of persons with disability through skill development. So we are a horizontal one. Now, a joint certification with SSC and the establishment will be given to the apprentices who complete the apprenticeship training under NAPS. And the BT, the basic training assessment by SSC would be conducted, and the OJT, the practical on-job training assessment would be conducted by the establishment under NAPS. However, for NAPS, establishments can create and develop their curriculum, and it shouldn't be going through the NSQF alignment, because it's a non-NAPS scheme, a non-NAPS mode of apprenticeship. And the other thing is that under this particular mode, establishments won't get any benefit in terms of incentives from the government. What is the way forward? If any establishment is interested to start the apprenticeship in their company, the initial step would be the registration of the establishment on the Apprenticeship India portal, and then you can go through with the available list of QP, the qualification packs or the job roles. If you find that the relevant job roles is available there, and that is also for PWD, which is persons with disability, you can select that. In case if you don't find any PWD job role in the list, which you want to engage in your company, you can contact SCPwD for that particular thing, and we will help you for development of the particular course and curriculum of that job role for persons with disability specifically. Once it's developed, we will send it to NSDC for the NSQF alignment, and once the NSQF alignment is done and approved, it would be live for the engaging the persons with disability in apprenticeship. Apart of that, you can also get in touch with me. My email ID is available. It is mentioned over the slide. It's tarun.parihar@scpwd.in. And you can also go through with our website, which is www.scpwd.in. And in case if you have any further queries for this, you can definitely get in touch with us. However, I would still suggest you that while working on the apprenticeship part, if you are engaging persons with disability in apprenticeship, you should be very sure that you are selecting the qualification pack or the job role on the apprenticeship portal specifically for persons with disability. For example, if you are engaging the apprentices in retail trainee associate job role, there should be two job roles on the portal, one retail trainee associate, and the second one should be retail trainee associate for persons with disability. So you need to select the second one, the persons with disability one, so that it comes to SCPwD instead of the domain sector skill council, the retail sector skill council, and we will be helping out in the further process. The agreement would be signed online by between the establishment and the candidate, the apprentices, and it would be approved by the joint apprenticeship advisor, which is the CEO of the skill council. And once it's signed, you are eligible to engage the apprentices legally and can get the benefits from this particular scheme. So this is all about NAPS, and your queries are most welcome at end of the session, and you can also write to me in case you have any queries, or if you need further discussion on this, I'll be available. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tarun. Request Ashok to take over, and we have two employers who are here to share their best practices. Tarun, you can stop sharing the screen. Yeah. Tarun, yeah. Okay. Ashok, go ahead.
Yeah. So as I explained earlier, and we giving presentation is something, but employers are the main stay of this presentation of this workshop. And so we have a few employers who will share in person what is their experience of hiring people with disability, and even during this COVID situation, how did they manage retaining or sustaining them in employment. So we have a couple of employers with us today. One is from Reliance Retail, Kerala territory, and the other one we have from uh, like the Joy from Compass, Delhi. So first, I would like to call Jitin to share his experience of reliance of working with us and majorly working with people with disability during COVID, and what were the steps they took in order to protect these employees, and how did they overcome the challenges of hiring them. Jitin, can you unmute yourself and take over?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad to be a part of this meeting again. All right. And let me share you in very short words that we, in every stores, we are recruiting two disabled manpower. Initially, people were, mainly the store managers were reluctant to take these people because they don't know how to communicate with them, and they are not very sure that how productive these people will be. And this was a challenge initially what we faced, that we had to put a lot of effort to convince them, but some of them are willing, and they started as a pilot project in some stores, and the feedback came very good that the productivity was more than 100%, if you ask me. The reason why we are saying this is because many of them will be distracted, and these people will be more focused, no distractions, and less of what is effort to explain. But right now what happens is we have got more people with us, and we place in every store as per the job availability and the recruitment. We are just filling the manpower with this differently able people. So we are most probably we are welcoming more. We are coming up with more stores again. We are recently just started up with a GeoMart, that is an online platform where our customers can order products from online. So we are into those e-commerce also. So we hope more manpower can be recruited. And if you ask me, during these COVID days, initially they faced challenges based on their accommodation and all. Some hostel facilities were not available, so they struggled. But as an HR, I'm looking into the L&D part, learning and development part in the Reliance Retail State of Kerala. And as a part of HR, we contacted them personally and tried to be in touch with them, try to convince them, try to convince the family. And every week and every day, we are connecting with them, store by store and person by person. Those are reporting, we are connecting them with video calls so that they feel that they are connected, they are being taken care. I'm not talking about differently able alone, entire staff. But those who are sitting at home, we are always connected with them over phone, and we are started using some application so that they can have a survey even before the Advocacy app was launched, and we started very first week itself. So those kind of support we ensured, and right now we are providing safety measures, every kind of PPE equipments, even the jackets we are providing for the staff. Right now it has been available in stores to visit across India. Anywhere you can see face shield, mask, gloves. And today we started some virtual audit. Right now I'm taking care of 5 stores, and we'll take a live video call, and we'll ask any of the store managers to walk through the store so that we can inspect everyone is following this safety procedures, what is being companies ask them to do. And we are taking care of those kind of things. And that's all from Lens, and thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Chitin. So, even though the steps that you have taken is commendable, the major positive aspect is you have tried to reach out to people with disability, and you have understood the real difficulties and reciprocating to their needs. So that's very important when we include people with disability, understand their needs and reciprocate accordingly. So which they have done very successfully, and they from our end we have also ensured that we provided some training support to them, which also built which also enabled their capacity in terms of handling people with disability. So next up we have Mr. Joy from Compass, Delhi, who is also working with us for a long time, and he has very rich experience in working with people with disability, and he would also share his experience in line with the COVID challenges, and how they are going out of their way to reach out to people with disability, and also to enable them to come into mainstream. Mr. Joy, can you come take over?
Joy, you can unmute yourself. Hello. Mr. Joy, you can unmute yourself and talk.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible now.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes,
Let me
yes.
unmute myself. Already unmute myself. Am I audible? Hello.
Yes, 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 Mr. Joy.
Okay, okay. So sorry because I'm technical. So first, I just want to try.
But there is
Hello.
some kind of disturbance at your end.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I hope. Am I audible?
Yes, yes,
Hello. Is okay?
yes.
Hello.
Please go.
Okay. Before start my session, I just would like to thanks all of you that you give me a chance to participate over here, and I just want to appreciate, and that is a very good workshop what you are doing all. So guys, first I'm just want to give my company's introduction over here. What Compass Group is all about. Compass Group is an MNC company very into food and support services. Means all about facility management company. Compass Group is working in 48 countries all over world, and India is one of them. And in India, our head office is Gurgaon, and I'm representing Gurgaon as I'm taking care of pan-India front-end recruitment for food and support services. If you ask me my experience about the PW candidates, because I'm working with since last 2 years with Compass Group, and I've recruited so many PW candidates from your organization as well as others too. And I'm not going for any kind of comparison, but till date, last month there are 2 to 3 candidates, PW candidates, who have given star award from Compass Group. Fine, and they're working Google, Facebook, and HN Hospital as well, and Dell, and American Express. So if you ask me, they are PWD physically challenged, though I'm not going to take all this because I don't think they are physically challenged. Okay, and if you ask me, the attrition rate is very low. The retention is very good of PWD candidates because before 2 to 3 months we supposed to take so many candidates and we took already. But during this condition, we cannot take right now because we have 450 sites all over India, pan India. Few of them are working right now, and few of them are closed already. So we have a plan to recruit more candidates because of their retention part is very good. Okay, and if you ask me about the recent condition, okay, that we are already collecting the data of PWD candidates region wise because we have working with regions like Kolkata, Delhi, Gurgaon, Pune, Mumbai, Hyderabad, Gujarat, Bangalore, Chennai, and we're just collecting data region wise and as per job profile. If someone's going interested for steward, someone is for pantry, someone is interested for PCA, housekeepers, with that bifurcate them, and we just into the part of that we will recruit them after 1 or 2 months. So for PWD candidates, I have some soft corner, and you can tell me that I am motivating myself every time when I'm going to recruit any PWD candidate. Okay, so this is all about my UA. So if you want to say something, you can also, or you can want to ask me. You can go ahead. Hello.
Hello. Yeah.
So
Hello.
this is all about from my way.
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
want to ask me anything, anybody can ask.
Yeah. Yeah. We can definitely. Yeah. We have participants who have questions, so we have question and answer session. So, thank you, Joy, for sharing your experience, and good to hear that you mentioned about retention part. We are hoping that even other employees will be positive towards hiring persons with disability.
This is a good point, ma'am, because retention part is very important for any company. And I'm working with Dr. Reddy since last 1.5 year because I'm working with location like in Gujarat, Kolkata, Gurgaon, and not saying only about Dr. Reddy. In every NGO, every NGO who are working in PWD candidates, they're very good. The candidates are far more better. If you ask me personally, I'm telling you, the retention, their behavior, their working culture, because they have the zeal to work. You know, you can respect that thing. उसके अंदर वो zeal होता है ना काम करने का. They have to prove themselves. So I can motivate myself. I'll meet anybody, any candidate. And you know, in my life, I just participate so many job fairs, PW job fairs. Okay, so every time I just youth for job. Dr. Reddy haven't joined any job fair, but youth for job. Then I forget the names. There are so many NGOs. Okay, so they're very well. Navjyoti. Okay,
Yeah.
so my words is not only for Dr. Reddy. My words is only for everyone. What you people are doing, that's a great one. Please go ahead wherever you need my opinion or my. Every time I just do for job. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Joy. And yeah, so now we have poll questions. I request all participants to share their views, feedback on poll questions. It's just 4 questions. So hope you all can see the screen. You can see the questions. Request everybody to participate, share your views. It will help us to improve this program going forward. And after this, we'll take questions from participants. Yeah. Four people have shared their views. Request all to share. Yeah, it's increasing. Yeah. Twenty seconds more. Please submit your questions, feedback. Okay. Thank you for sharing your feedback. We are ending the poll. Yeah, few are still responding. Okay, so you can see the results. Thanks for sharing your feedback, and definitely wherever there are, yeah, wherever we have to improve, definitely we'll try to improve for the next workshop. Thanks for sharing your feedback. Yeah, now over to questions. You can type your questions in the chat box. So request all panel speakers to switch on their videos. And yeah, there is one request. It's not a question, but humble request to SCPwD to please focus on small city and rural areas for skill development activities. Dr. Niharika, would you like to answer this? You're on mute.
Yeah, technology hitches. So I think yes, that's right. It's not a question. It's a suggestion. And as Skill Council for Persons with Disability, we are operating pan India, and we are not only in tier one cities but also aiming to those cities and rural setups also. So if Gopalji wants to know about the job roles, basically we have some job roles which are more associated with the agriculture, dairy farming and all, which are rural oriented job roles. But apart from that, I may just like to make one comment that SCPwD has almost 90 odd job roles which we have shortlisted, but the trainings are happening only in few job roles. And I'm sure all of you will appreciate that the demand of training, if it is coming only in few job roles, the other job roles are not getting an opportunity, and the demand side comes from the employment side. So I will request that all of you please highlight, please share if there are requirements of a specific job role, a specific area which you want SCPwD to take consideration on. And if we do not have training providers there, if we do not have such opportunities, we will surely work upon that. Hope this suffice. If there is anything else, I will be happy to respond.
Thank you, Dr. Niharika. Hope there are no questions. We'll just wait for one more minute because already it's 13 minutes behind the schedule. If there are no questions, we'll end this call. And thank you everyone for participating. Hope this session is helpful and insightful for all of you. Looking forward for mm, such workshops, more such workshops in future. Uh, I hope no questions. So, any final comments from panelists? Any closing
So
remarks? Yeah.
yeah, so I would just like to thank all the participants today for taking out their time, and I'm sure that they would have also given their feedback and inputs on how the sessions are. They have we could see the result, and it comes as excellent. But please give us suggestions in order to improve what is required, because I understand that the thrust is not only for the recruitment of PWD, but also to retain them in their current jobs. It becomes our overall responsibility. And apart from that, I think together with Dr. Reddy's and us, we can further improve on if there have been any lapses. But once again, I would like to thank on behalf of SCPwD, and also I think Lakshmi will do the final closing. But since there have been no questions, I'm making it as an assumption that the presentations and all the content has been actually taken very well, and we just need an initiative from your end now. I mean, after going back from this workshop, request all of you to please think on the ways in which we can bring in most of the participation of PWD in the workforce. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Niharika. Tarun, would you like to share anything?
Yes, so I also thank all of the participants in this virtual workshop. I would also be looking forward to hearing back from the employers for their further queries on NAPS apprenticeship and industry collaboration with SCPwD, and benefits and schemes related matters can also be discussed over the call or through the email. So I'll be looking forward for further cooperation and collaboration. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tarun. Ashok?
Hello.
Ashok, would you like to share anything? Closing remarks?
Uh, I'm muted.
Oh, okay. No. You can. We
No.
can hear you.
Hello.
We can hear you,
Is it
Ashok.
audible?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay. Yeah, fine. So, as I said in the beginning, it's a very good beginning of having 30 to 40 people in this very difficult times for taking your time out amidst of your busy schedules. So I can only see very positive way ahead. So we look forward to work with you. Our organization is always there to work individually, understanding your needs, understanding your requirements, and also support you along the way to increase or increase a more opportunity to recruit people with disability. So that support is always there from our end. So I request all of you to get back to us and also ask more support from your end. We will be ready to support to any extent to increase in employment opportunities to people with disability. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashok. Special thanks to employers who have shared their best practices, Mr. Jitin and Mr. Joy. And thanks to SCPwD team, Dr. Niharika and Tarun. Thanks to Ashok. And thanks to all participants for taking time and attending this program. And hope this is helpful and uh, look forward for a greater partnership with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.